Now we look into a normal linear gradients. I'll start by creating a rectangle. I first remove the stroke color. Activate it by clicking and then selecting the none color. Then I'll activate the fill color so that my gradients will appear on the fill. The gradients are managed from the gradient panel. If you cannot find it, remember that you can find all the panels from Window menu. To activate the gradients, I click on the button on the upper left corner. The default gradient is from white to black. The most important area on the panel is the slider. The stubs that look like little houses define the colors on the gradients. The left stub is white and the right one is black. If I need to change colors on the gradients, I set them to those little houses. The easiest way is to drag a color from the swatches menu to the gradient stubs. I'll select a dark green and drag it to the black house. I need to be really careful to get the color just inside the stub. If I mess things up, I undo it straight away by pressing Ctrl Z. To the left house, I drag a light green color. Because my rectangle was selected, the colors changed there. I can edit the color stubs by double-clicking on them. I'm happy with the colors on the gradient. I would like the gradient to be in a different angle, so that the dark green would be up. This is when I need to change the angle of the gradient. Now it turned 90 degrees counterclockwise. If I want to use this gradient again, I can save it to the swatches panel. This is of course done by clicking on the symbol of new on the swatches panel. Now we will look into one feature that will be really important later on. I drag a new rectangle. It has the same gradient than the previous selection. Each of the gradient stubs have a color value, but they also have another feature: opacity. When I've selected the rectangle, I click on the light green stub. The active house has a white roof. Under the gradient slider, the opacity is now active. Now I can change the opacity of the light green color. I'll set it to 0%. As a sign of transparency, there is a small grid under the house. So now my gradient is from 100% opaque dark green to 0% opaque light green. I move the form on top of the other one. The bottom part of the form is fully transparent. So I can put this form on top of any other form, and one of the edges always blends. When using the opacity in the gradients, we always have to remember that there always changes the opacity and the color. I now change the transparent light green into red. Now the gradient is from opaque green to transparent red. The transparency and the color are changing. If I want to have a gradient with only the transparency changing, I create a gradient like this. I set the same color to both of the houses. Now the gradient is opaque cyan to opaque cyan. But now I'll change the other house to be transparent. And I end up with a gradient opaque cyan to transparent cyan. I can change the angle of the gradient or rotate the whole of the form. The gradient follows. A normal light effect can be done with a white to white gradient. where I set the other white to opacity 0. You can of course make the other whites partly transparent. Create different kind of gradients. From opaque to transparent color, from opaque color to another opaque color, and from an opaque color to the same color that is transparent.